Alright, so about to start up the fuel pump for the first time. The lighting's pretty bad here. It's a Fuelab fuel pump with a pre-filter right there. There's a sump on the gas tank, dash 10 lines into the pre-filter, then the fuel pump. There you can see the logo. Into some more dash 10 and up into the fuel rails. So you've got 5/8 stainless lines going all the way down the frame. All the way up to the front. Alright, so we're back up at the front of the frame now. We're looking in through the passenger side wheel well. Got the supply and return lines coming up there. The 5/8 stainless line terminates with AN fittings, goes into dash 10 fittings, goes through some high temp silicone fiberglass sleeving to keep the heat from the headers off of those lines. Supply line comes into the Magnafuel fill filter after the pump but before the fuel rails. Goes up into the engine bay. And here we are in the engine bay. So your supply line is right here. Comes into the Y fitting, goes down into the rails right there. You can see those little blue specks down in there. Right back there, those are ID 1000 injector dynamics injectors. So we go through the fuel rails, hit the injectors, come off the back of the fuel rail through these these are now dash 8 lines. After we go through the Y block, that's dash 8. Through the fuel rails, dash 8. Come out of the fuel rails, dash 8, into the Y block, dash 10, into the Fuelab fuel pressure regulator, which is a pretty cool device because that electronically controls the pump speed so that it doesn't work harder than it needs to in order to maintain the fuel pressure, which is 1-to-1 boost referenced. You can get a look at the fuel pressure regulator there. I can see that electrical connector that goes right into the bottom of it down there. Got the fuel pressure gauge there. It's not hard to see. There we go. Aero mode 0 to 100 psi. Got the AutoMeter fuel pressure gauge also. That's going back to the A-pillar gauge that I have for the fuel pressure. Once it comes back out of the fuel pressure regulator, comes over here, I've got a flex fuel sensor. You can see that right there. This is dash 8 right here. I got some swage lock dash 8 AN to 3/8 tube adapters that you can see right there. Those are the swage lock fittings. Super nice stainless steel fittings. Grab onto that flex fuel sensor really well. No concern of leaks. I took the 90 fitting onto that one just because I didn't actually buy the 90-degree swage lock fitting that I needed. But then it drops down into the return. Comes all the way back along the frame and pops up right here. Frame drops down, returns it into the sump of the fuel tank. And then you can see, I'll show you inside the fuel tank so you can see what that looks like. Bear with me for a second here. Alright, there in that corner of the tank you see that 5/8 stainless line penetrating the wall. That's the return, so it shoots the return up towards the front of the tank, back this way. The suction line is directly below that, So the return fuel should definitely mix with whatever fuel's in the tank, and it should not go back directly into the suction. So that'll help keep the fuel cool. Also, it'll once I do put ethanol in there, it shouldn't have a problem mixing up too much. It should mix with the rest of the fuel with no issue. Alright, so here's a quick look in the cab with the gauges and whatnot. I got oil temperature, oil pressure, RPM, speedometer, fuel level, and water temperature. And then on the A-pillar, I've got the Innovate LC1 gauge, or that's an MTX-L actually. Fuel pressure and boost pressure. All AutoMeter stuff except the Innovate. There's the Race Pack Smart Wire and the Haltech Elite 2500. Using the Smart Wire to control majority of my power outputs in the vehicle. The Elite is the ECU. And basically all my control wires come up to the front firewall. Go in there, and I've got some mil-spec connectors that those are all going into. Alright, so I'm hooked up to the Race Pack Smart Wire right now. This page I'm on right now is the car configuration that I currently have. That's what Race Pack calls basically the file you open that shows all the information about your Race Pack system. As you can see here, I've got the Fuelab on channel 1 and channel 4, so I've got two 20 amp channels run in parallel so that I can handle up to 40 amps for the fuel pump. I'm going to use this control panel for the Race Pack to control the pump when I start it up for the very first time, just so that the ECU won't have any problems and I can shut it off quickly if I need to. So here we go. So I've got the Fuelab fuel pump hardwired into a low speed mode right now by shorting the speed control PWM terminal to ground. That forces it to run in a low speed mode. Got the Race Pack data link program open so that I can control the fuel pump output, and got good battery voltage here, so we should be good to go. And go ahead and command a channel on for the Fuelab. You can hear it turned on. Working. That's a bunch of air coming out of the return line. So it looks like it's put fuel through the entire fuel system already. There's a pretty good flow of fuel going there, you can see. It's pushing it all the way to the back of that, or the front of the tank actually. Got no more air. Let's see if we're going to register anything on the fuel pressure gauges. Should not register anything because I've got that regulator set down as low as it'll go. So the AutoMeter gauge is saying about 22 psi maybe. Let's compare that to the air mode gauge. That's showing to be about 23. So those agree. I'm going to do a quick leak check here real quick, make sure nothing's leaking. Alright. I don't have any leaks under the under there by the fuel pump. Okay, there's the supply on the bottom and the return on top. No leaks there. Fuel filter. No leaks on the inlet or the outlet. Okay. Here's the supply. Don't see any leaks there. Both sides going into the fuel rail, don't see leaks. No leaks there. No leaks there. Coming out of the fuel rail, no leaks. And check this other one by hand, can't see it. No leaks there. Into the Y block. No leaks there. Into the regulator, no leaks there. Out of the Y block, no leaks. It's a little bit of ATF from when I was assembling that fitting. As you can see on there, it kind of looks like a leak, but that's just transmission fluid. No leaks there. Flex fuel sensor. No leaks there. No leaks there. And no leaks there. So run down the frame. Already checked where it goes into the fuel line along the frame, so I'll check back here. Comes out of the fuel line. No leaks. No leaks. And no leaks there either. Looks pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, so I temporarily have that fuel pump in low speed mode by grounding the PWM terminal. So here's that wire that I've got temporarily run to the fuel pump. So I'm going to remove this and it should bump into high speed mode right away. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, see what it sounds like. Okay. See what the flow looks like in the tank. Definitely moving some fuel. A lot. That looks really good. Well, it's really, I don't see any air bubbles coming out, so it looks like the system's completely purged, which is good. Monitor the current output on that. And that's bouncing. I'm going to bump the battery charger on real quick, see if we can push that voltage up a little bit. So it looks like I'm pulling right around 10 amps here. Fuel pressure up to about 24 pounds, 26 maybe. Yeah, about 26 on that one also. Alright, so the pump's probably been running for a couple minutes now. Looks like we got all the air out of it. I'm going to try and adjust this regulator. Right now it's loose, it's got no pressure on it. When I start threading it in, it should be able to raise the pressure up. Okay. So now we're at 30 psi. You notice the pump sounds like it's loading down a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to be looking for 43.5 psi base on this setup. There's 42. 43.5 would be just before that mark there. Right about there. See if the AutoMeter is reading that as well. Okay. Fuel pressure is reading accurately. Very nice, very nice. Check out what's going on in the tank again. Still quite a bit of fuel flow, even at that higher pressure. Let me go ahead and see if this pump's getting warm at all. Not at all. Not even warm at all. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop that back down into low speed mode. There we go. So right now we're pulling about